Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about relationships. And the one person you definitely need to hear from, to learn from, to read books from this author is John Gray. He is the man who wrote the Bible of all relationships. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. If you haven't read that book, you definitely must. But I'll tell you a little secret. John has more than one book. John, don't you have like 26 books on relationships?
I do. Different aspects of relationship, parenting, boys, dating, sex, marriage. Then I have books on health and wellness and brain function and hormone balance and all that.
Which is fascinating because relationships is not only about getting into relationships, but it's also about how to maintain them, how to keep them healthy, and also how to make sure people grow together. John, don't you think it's such a big trouble nowadays? People meet together and then they just grow apart. What happens with nowadays world? Why people just grow apart all of a sudden? What are your thoughts on that?
Our expectations, in one sense, are unrealistic. We have new expectations. We want lasting romance and passion. We want to feel aliveness through our relationships because we do in the beginning. And we go, why can't I have this forever? In
Yeah.
previous generations, you knew that would not last. That was called the honeymoon period, and it was over. Relationships were more like I call them role mate relationships, which is men had their role, women had their role. But as that has changed, as women are more independent and they can make money, they're not so dependent on men for money. They actually are learning what they're dependent on men for. It's not yet fully aware in women's consciousness, but what they need is a new kind of emotional support. They need the safety to be authentic, to express how they feel, what they think, what they wish, what they want. They want equality. They want equal respect. Basically, this is something that women didn't require before to be happy. And now they require it. And part of why they require it to be happy is if you're more on your masculine side, if you're a woman, all those things I just mentioned help you come back to your feminine side. And
Mm.
if you do get back to your feminine side, now you're an amazing person like never before because you have both masculine qualities and feminine qualities. And that's what often is talked about as like flow state. And we can say in terms of relationships, that's an open heart. You actually grow in love, you grow in passion by using your relationship to find that balance. And the flip side of this is true for men, which is as women are more independent, it's not enough for men just to have a good job and make money in order to feel successful in a relationship. What he wants is a happy wife. What he wants is a sexually responsive wife. In the past, men didn't care about that. Sex, nor did women. It was really, sex was mainly for the man. But today, men want it to be for the woman as well. And he's not satisfied if it doesn't seem as though she's interested in sex, she enjoys sex, she loves him, and they have a wonderful bedroom experience. So that has become a priority, although not always mentioned. But that is the real problem today, is that our expectations are higher. And I personally say that in many ways, you can achieve those higher expectations, but you need to realize your skills are way out of date. You have to learn new insights to get to that. And on another perspective, our expectations are very unrealistic, and we have to learn to make them more realistic. Um, we, we, we start to think our partner has the power to make us happy. They don't. They can make us happier, but it's still our job to be happy.
I love that. This is such a powerful phrase. You got to be happy by yourself, and then you meet somebody and you're happier with them. Bingo, this is so powerful. But John, what can we do about still having those expectations? Because let's put it this way, how many people will be ready to settle with somebody with whom they're not going to be quite happy? Just for the sake of relationship, there is no point. So what to do if you are meeting somebody and they're more or less matching your expectations, but then chemistry is not there because maybe the polarity is not the right way around. As you said, men are having different expectations right now. Women are more independent, so the polarity gets affected, and the chemistry is going away. So how to fix that?
Well, I love that you're talking about polarity, because when we talk about passion and attractiveness to each other, it's actually polarity that creates that attraction.
Mm.
Women don't dress like men for a reason. If you
Yes.
dress like
Yeah.
if you dress like a man, there's not many men are interested in you. You got to dress like a woman, but it's not just how you dress. Okay, that's one part of it. It's not how you also it's who's inside. There's feminine qualities, and understanding those feminine qualities is very important. And in the past, it wasn't so important because uh, the feminine qualities didn't need to be explored and developed more, because typically we weren't looking for that passion. And women were spending most of their time in domestic activities, nurturing activities, homemaking activities with other women as a tribe. Their feminine energy was intact. Uh, and it made them attractive to their husbands. So couples did have sex. If you go to indigenous tribes, it's quite interesting. When I was down in the Amazon, they actually, up until 80 years old, they were having sex. Couples would have sex.
Wow.
They didn't always have exclusive sex. They don't have the same values that we have. That they don't have shame around sex the way we do, and they don't have possessiveness and attachment. Although when it comes to monogamy, I'm a big believer in that, because if you really want to grow into ecstatic sex, which these people don't have, I think, I'm not in the room with them when they're doing it, but there's a place where sex allows you to reveal with a person something you wouldn't reveal with somebody else. It's literally being naked, authentic, open, and it feels so good to feel safe that you can be naked both emotionally, mentally, and physically with somebody who loves and adores you. That's what takes you over the top from being happy to happier.
Yeah.
And we can measure it with a science. We can measure that, which is when a woman has an ecstatic orgasm, her estrogen levels will be twice as high as they normally are. So that estrogen is the female hormone. Women typically, just to be reasonably happy, they need to have 10 times more estrogen than an average man. These are biological realities, because our bodies and hormones determine so much of our mood, our energy, our desires, our happiness, our depressions, our anxieties. Everything is related to hormones. And hormones is related to brain function, but it's so easy to talk about hormones because nobody disagrees. We know men and women's hormones are different. And we know that testosterone is a hormone that women have, but in very small amounts when compared to men. Men have at least 10 to 30 times more. And at those moments where men want to pledge their love to a woman and put her on a pedestal, so to speak, it's about 50 times higher at those moments. So that's how men bond. Men bond when their testosterone levels go high. It's kind of like, you take another example, when you look at soldiers. They have that bonding experience because they're in danger and they feel supported by their friends. That means their testosterone levels go super high if they have that support. And when you experience high testosterone in a relationship and you're a man, that's a bond, and it lasts a long time. But today, that we men require a different kind of relationship in order to experience that high level of testosterone. Let me give you an example of my dad. He had a good job, and my mother had 7 children and a home, and she was a homemaker and lived in a nice house in a nice neighborhood. And she could count her blessings for that her husband had a good job and wasn't an alcoholic, didn't drink too much, basically came home and watched TV. but
Bingo.
it was fine. She got what she needed. So she was very, very appreciative. You see, if you are hungry and need food, somebody gives you food, you bond with them. You
Yeah.
very appreciative. And that food may not be the best food, but it tastes really, really good because you're feeling your need for it.
Yes.
Well, and men, if I'm a fireman and I rescue somebody's life, save their life, I bond with them. I feel great about myself. It makes my day, right? It makes my week, maybe makes my lifetime, because I saved someone. I provided what they needed and they appreciated me so much, and I will bond with them. Well, if you take that situation, that's kind of what my dad got. My mother depended on him to be a good provider. So she had a lot of love and appreciation for that. What if she had a job and was making just as much money as him and was stressed out at her job? Uh, she's not going to feel the same appreciation for him because she doesn't need his money that much. You see, he doesn't need that. So this is kind of a dilemma that men are in, which is they're not needed as much as before. Which on one level, it's great. You know, men can have more time playing video games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They can watch TV more. They can play soccer. They can do
Yep.
sports. You know, the pressure is less. But part of what made men have high testosterone is the pressure to provide. You see, I remember being a young guy and thinking, oh my gosh, one day I have to make money to support a family. How am I going to do that? But if you have training and education and opportunity, you do it and you feel great doing it if you can do it. Now, if you can't do it, you feel just the opposite. But if you can do it, your testosterone goes really high because somebody needs you. But if somebody doesn't need as much what you have to offer, your testosterone levels don't go so high. And what happens is your estrogen levels go higher. And because you're not needed, testosterone goes down. And anytime a man is unable to make a commitment, he's moody, he's irritable, he's grumpy, he's pouty, he's argumentative, all the worst qualities of men in relationships, and a lack of libido for his partner and an increased libido for somebody else. All of those are symptoms of low testosterone in men. It's also symptoms of low self-esteem. You could look at it from the psychological point of view. What builds your self-esteem as a man is look what I can do. What builds your self-esteem as a woman is look what other people do for me.
Ah, that's really interesting, John. I love that. So basically what you're saying, man feels great when woman is dependent on him. And then if woman is appreciative and she really loves and adores him and puts him on a pedestal, treats him like a king, then things are great. But what to do with nowadays a bit strange society when men think about women who want them to be providers as gold diggers, and more and more women to want have nothing to do with men providing for them, but actually being more independent. Because I totally agree with you, because this is how I was raised. In my family, you know, men supposed to be provider and woman is looking after the household. This is how I was raised and these what values I have. But I can see what happens in the world. More and more men think, no, it has to be 50-50. But then what happens when it is 50-50? Women feel straight away like, oh, but then we are friends. So
You know, you speak so much wisdom there, and it's a this huge dilemma. I want to take off of one word you said, which was, you know, a woman wants a man who's a good provider. She's seen as a gold digger. Actually, it's only other women who are jealous that see her as a gold digger. Men don't. Men do not see you as a gold digger if you appreciate the gold that he's got. That's what it is. If you don't appreciate the gold that he's got, then he'll say, oh, you're just using me. But actually, we like to be used. But the feminine perspective is the judgmental one, because all these women are out there burning out, making money. And here's this woman who says, I'm just going to marry a guy who has got a good job and have fun in my life. Well, who are you? You betrayed us, you know. Another version of that, I mean, there's many versions of truth, but my next door neighbor is her husband and her are doctors. You know, they went through the whole medical thing. They're very prominent doctors. And then when she decided to have children, she stopped being a doctor until they grew up. And at that time, all of her friends that she'd gone through college with to become doctors, it's quite a big process, alienated her, defriended her, felt cheated by her, felt betrayed by her. You know, she's sort of left out in the cold because she followed her heart and did what she wanted. And I'm not saying every woman wants to have children, but she wanted to have children. And the last thing she wanted to do was have these little children and then have somebody else raise them.
Yeah.
She wanted to raise her kids, and she did, my goodness. And she has a wonderful daughter who just married, and she's a doctor now. And, you know, these are the hard times for women if you want to be a bit more traditional. And, you know, my mother, for example, she didn't work while her kids were young, but when they grew up, she had a nice career. She actually had the biggest metaphysical bookstore in the country and never advertised. She just did it because she loved to do it. She had such a big library of spiritual metaphysical books that she bought another house because my dad was a good provider. And in that house, she just put her library there and put up a little sign saying Aquarian Age Bookshelf in Houston, Texas, never advertised. And she made it a lending library. She didn't care about the money. And so she just enjoyed sharing this books that she had benefited from. And she's a big reader. And then people wanted to buy the books. Oh, I want to buy it. So then she started buying books from people, selling it. And then she ended up with this huge business, following her heart, doing what she loved to do. And it was all
Yeah.
completely stress-free. And, you know, other women in her generation weren't jealous of that. She said, wow, she's a wise woman. She's a happy woman.
Wow.
And I think that was the greatest gift she gave me. You know, people say, how did you turn out so good? I said, particularly expert in relationships. It's easy for me because I grew up with a happy mother.
Yeah.
If you're a happy mother, you gain a confidence that you can make a woman happier, you know, as opposed to, you know, Bonnie would be unhappy about things. And I go, okay, well, what's going on? I didn't immediately feel like, oh, it was up to me. It's my job. I've somehow failed. And this is what happens to men when women are not finding their own source of self. He feels like it's his fault. Even if she's not saying it's his fault, he will feel that just because there's not this awareness that she's a happy woman and he can make her happier. Or she could actually say to him when she's not happy, I want to talk. This is a really good relationship skill I'm about to share. It's $1 million phrase that Bonnie would use. And I'll just mention, I talk about Bonnie in the past because we're married 34 years and then she passed. So that happened a couple of years ago. So to understand that. And what the phrase she would use, which was amazing, $1 million phrase, if metaphorically I stepped on her foot, she has to let me know, you know, otherwise I'll keep stepping on her foot. You know, this is communication. I have to let you know you stepped on my foot and it hurt. Otherwise, you'll just keep doing it. So we have to talk about things that are uncomfortable for us, but how to do it. And now we're in this altered awareness of wanting more passion and women needing to find their female side. And you actually find your female side through articulating and expressing feelings. That's the most estrogen stimulating thing there is, as opposed to just burying it and being a soldier. Okay, so she's got to share these feelings, but then the feelings come up and a guy feels like he's failed or he hasn't done enough. He gets defensive. He makes you wrong for being upset and not appreciating everything he does. So it's just set up for failure. Well, she figured this out and she said, John, I just want you to know you stepped on my foot. That's a metaphor. Now, if we're monkeys, and we can't communicate, right? So monkeys don't know how to talk that well. So if you step on my foot, the only way I can tell you stepped on my foot and it hurts is to step on your foot and make you feel pain. And that's hurting each other. That's revenge. That's making someone feel what you feel, okay, by doing it to them. And that's reactivity. And we all have this part of our brain that just has reactions all the time. That's a monkey inside of us. Communication frees us from that tendency. So what she figured out to do is, instead of, if I keep doing the same thing, like I'd forget to turn out the lights. And after 10 years of me forgetting to turn out the lights when I walk through a room, it's no longer about the lights. You see, a woman will react like, you don't love me. What that means is you don't listen to me. You don't follow what I say. You keep repeating that thing and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's no longer about the light. It's about, you don't love me. And that then pushes stress buttons inside of her and keeps her from opening her heart. So she just said, basically, you know, John, I just want you to know, I just want to talk about my feelings for just a few minutes. You don't have to say anything. Immediately, I relax. Because as soon as a woman says, I want to talk about my feelings, it's like, oh my gosh, we're going to jail. You know, how long is this going to take? What is it? You know, what am I in trouble for? And so but you have to tell him, you know, you stepped on my foot the other day and I just want you to know how it felt. It'll only take a few minutes and it's not a big deal. If you say to a man, it's not a big deal, he'll make it a big deal. If you make it a big deal, he has to defend himself and say, it's not that big of a deal. Get over it.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Interesting. That's really interesting.
It's the opposite of what you think. And you kind of go, how do I trust the opposite of what I think? Well, what you think doesn't work. So try the opposite and you'll see, this is the most amazing thing. The monkey who can't communicate, they step on your foot and it didn't work, then they'll step harder and they'll step harder and they'll make louder noises and louder noises, pushing it on the person, pushing on a person. And finally, if you're a more powerful monkey, they will change through submission. But that's not what relationships are about. It's cooperation, it's sharing, it's growing in love, mutual respect, and it's trust, all these good qualities. So we have to practice it ourselves, because when you minimize something, you say, it's not a big deal. You don't really have to say anything. I just need you to hear how I feel. And I know you'll take it into consideration. That's it. Then you share it because you've already processed it. Maybe you're really, really upset about something. That's the monkey who feels, I have to be really upset to get attention. I have to, you see, we amplify things. And I know I do it sometimes. If I'm upset and somebody says what happened, I'll make the story more from my point of view and leave out a few details that would dim it, that would actually realize I'm part of the problem. Yeah, everybody does
Exactly.
it. Okay? Because we think to get recognition, I don't want somebody to go, that's no big deal. What are you upset about? I want to be upset. So I'm going to build the story up. So that's all part of life. But if you want your partner to give you more and you want your partner to really hear you and reach in, it's almost like you whisper instead of getting louder. And if somebody starts to whisper, you kind of go, what are they saying? What are they saying? You
Yes.
get closer in. And so that's called feather touch, just the feather touch. And so she learned, it was such a relief for me. She said, this is not a big deal. I went, ah. And
Good.
you don't have to say anything, just hear it. And she took a short period of time, or she did many times. I just feel this, and I felt frustrated about this. I felt like you didn't love me. I felt like, why should I bother cooking meals for you if you don't call me and the food goes bad? And I just needed to know that goes on inside of me. You don't have to do anything about it, say anything. Matter of fact, just think about it. And thanks so much for listening. And she gave me this big hug and then disappeared. And that was really important. You wouldn't know that as a woman. You would think, now we need to discuss again what you're going to do about it and whatever. Men want to feel that if they're going to make a change, it's because of him, not because somebody made him do it. You see, if
Right.
somebody makes me do something and it's good, that person gets credit.
Mm-hmm.
Men always want credit. Okay. It's like, that's
Mm-hmm.
that basic need to bump up the testosterone is, look what I did. But if you did it, meaning you told me what to do and I did it because you told me what to do, then I don't get credit for it so much. Even
Yeah.
though you might give him credit more, he doesn't feel he deserves credit unless he does it himself. So this is, think of a man in some ways like a little boy who's tying his shoes wrong, and and you want to tell him how to tie his shoes. He said, no, I'm going to do it myself. I can do it myself. Don't help me. Don't help me. Don't help me. That's part of his makeup as a man. And it's in there. It's a testosterone booster. Is look what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in control of me. And when I say the control word, sometimes people go, oh, men and controlling. Actually, women and controlling. If you look at men's biggest complaint about women, the 3 C's is, one is criticizing,
Yep.
one is complaining, and the third is controlling. And
Controlling.
women don't realize how controlling they are because you're unaware of it, because you have so much power. See, women don't know they have so much power. But if I know that standing on my head, walking on my arms would give you orgasms, every man would be walking on his arms. Okay. That's just who we are. We make huge adjustments and we don't complain about it. We don't say anything about it. But some men do complain about it, but only because it didn't work to make her happy. That's the whole thing. Get that men are there to serve you, kneel before you. You talked about how can a woman make her husband the king. Well, when you do, he kneels before you as the queen. That's the whole secret of this thing.
That is so powerful. And I wish more couples could actually learn that, because unfortunately, we have so many people coming from broken families where they haven't seen that appreciation from woman's side towards man, and they haven't seen how man was treating woman. That now these two people from two completely different families getting together with completely wrong views of relationships. And then they say, yeah, but you know what I was expecting. And I really wish these words of wisdom, which you're sharing right now, would be heard and probably even delivered at school at that age when young people are still ready to grow. Because I think it's too late to already rebuild relationship when people are in their 30s and 40s. Because the relationships are built when they're still young, when they have first boyfriends and first girlfriends. And what you're talking here is the fundamentals of relationships. It's so powerful.
It is so powerful. And I do have more help for the 30-year-olds. I want you to know, and I have a very optimistic point of view for the future. And that is, Churchill had a saying about Americans. He said, we can always trust the Americans to do the right thing after they've tried everything that doesn't work.
True.
and, and actually, you know, what he's referring to, as most people don't know, is that America, which has all good intentions, actually we financed the Hitler regime until we decided we shouldn't do that. So,
Right.
and that's all written in history books and so forth. And most people don't get those history books, but it's all, you know, we were all deciding, you know, we were out of the war, there's Europe, there's Hitler, and all these ideas. And, uh, and the, I don't know how I got off on that, but I needed to say that for some reason.
Help for the
and,
30-year-olds.
and what I
Yeah.
wanted to say is, yeah, we make the wrong mistakes. It's kind of like describing masculinity. We will do the wrong things, but we can, when we realize what does work, we do change. And if in human nature as well, we have to learn from mistakes. So right now we're making a big mistake in society, which is all part of a growth process. This is my optimism. And the great step we've taken is we've released the freedom for women to express their independence. Okay,
Yeah.
that was, and inadvertently that then gives men the freedom to discover their dependence on love and awareness of that. Now, this bad side of all this is men go to their dependent side. Now we have a testosterone is independence. Look what I can do. Estrogen always increases when you feel I need you, when there's a sense of dependence. So what we want is interdependence, okay, balance, okay? I have an independent side and a dependent side. I need your love, but I also can give myself love. So there's a balance there, and that's our goal. But you can never achieve that goal of interdependence until women are free to be on their independent side and men are free to be on their dependent side, where we depend on you for love. We need your love. I mean, it's such a sweet feeling to feel, you know, deeply in love with my partner because I need your love and I love you. So having said that, what are the problems that then result where we're making all the mistakes now before we realize this new gift of freedom that we have? Men having freedom to be dependent are drug addicts.
Oh, yeah.
we're addicted to play, we're addicted to pornography, we're addicted to alcohol, and not that other generations haven't been, but for different reasons. And if we could even step back a moment, just the political side of all this, why did this shift take place? Well, part of why we became free is women wanted to become independent because they were oppressed. They weren't always oppressed, but there was an oppression that happened when the governments were corrupt and men did not get paid for their service. You see, when a man is underpaid, and still half the men in America are slaves, they're underpaid. And that creates destruction in relationships. But when men are fairly treated through payment, appreciation for their actions instead of abuse by being underpaid, then those men take it out on their families. And they have low self-esteem because they're not getting the acknowledgement that they deserve for what they do. Then they come home broken. And what you have is all these broken males, and half our society at least is broken males, unfortunately. And we're raising a generation of broken males as well. I wrote a book called Boy Crisis, What's Happening with Our Boys. But having said that, women said, look, we're not going to take this anymore. We had a nice arrangement here. You're my king, I'm your queen, but I'm not being treated like a queen. You know, you're a big a-hole. And I'm not going to depend on you. I can't depend on you. This is not working. So now they now go off over to their male side, which is a transformation of society and the world. This is happening. That frees women to then, oops, let me turn this off.
It's okay.
Okay. When women go to their independent side, it frees women from oppression, but it also points out a new problem, which is if you're independent, you now are alone. You can't make a commitment. And hey, you know, when you fell in love with that guy for a week, you had these amazing orgasms and now you can't have them again. What happened is your estrogen goes back down. You know, the newness of a relationship stimulates high levels of dopamine. Without a history, then you don't have any bad feelings about somebody. And when you get that high surge of dopamine, which comes from newness, men, their testosterone goes up, and for women, their estrogen goes up. And so you have this amazing hormonal mix for great sex, attraction, and passion. But when the newness goes away, you don't get free hormones. That's why you need Mars-Venus ideas, because Mars-Venus ideas and this understanding helps women to come back to their female side. Not saying you can't be your masculine side,
Mhm.
but you have to come back to your female side. And men, not saying you can't have your fun, you have to come back to your masculine side. And that's a little tougher. You know, men were made to be tougher. It means to be
Yeah.
challenged, to have pressure put on us, but to have the right response, the appreciation for the effort we put forth. There's a fun TV show I just saw, which is called Dirty Jobs.
Never
It's
heard of
on,
that.
it's Dirty Jobs. And I saw the guy who produces it, and he's a great guy. He is a wonderful guy. And I went, yeah, here's a man's man. See, he says, you know, let's bring back the dirty jobs. Let's recognize who's
Yeah.
the construction workers, who are the welders, who are the builders, who are the guys that get down in the sewer. You know,
Yeah.
this is what men are about, you know, and how to toughen up as a man and get out of all this whining and complaining and feeling emotions. You have to if you have love emotions, great. But if you're feeling hurt, you're on your female side, toughen up, go do something, increase your testosterone, and you won't feel that hurt. You see, sensitivities, men have become too sensitive and women have become too tough.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. So
Exactly.
what can a woman do? What can a man do? We're going in the wrong direction. Now we got people who think they're boys are girls and girls are boys. It's because we have this freedom to access our masculine and feminine sides. There's a freedom now. But what's happening is we're seeing it doesn't work if we become too feminine if we're men. And it doesn't work if we become too masculine if we're women. And I even hesitate to say too masculine. You can be as masculine as you are as long as it's who you are. But you have to make sure you're also nurturing your
Yeah.
female side, which is also who you are. And the test of that is, what are your stress levels? If your stress levels are up, adrenaline level being produced, if you have any health issues at all, your hormones are out of balance. There's no such thing as being sick and having your hormones in balance, period. Can't experience anxiety with your hormones in balance, can't experience depression, can't experience fatigue, exhaustion, sleepless nights, blood sugar problems. All of these things have to do with imbalanced hormones. Now you
Wow.
could say it's also imbalanced brain function, et cetera, et cetera. But where you have control more than anything, it's so clear that you can balance your hormones by your choices of how you have your mindset and your actions, and the quality of your relationships will determine your hormones. And that's why this Mars Venus idea is so great. Of men now have a new job. We're not needed for money as much, but we're needed to help women come back to their emotional side, to feeling need of sharing my feelings, sharing my wishes and wants, having someone back me up, having someone support me emotionally, and
Mhm.
having someone provide great sex for me. And that's what men have to learn, is how to provide great sex for women. Most men have no idea what that means. And most women don't realize how important her enjoying sex is to a man. These are like realities that we have to confront if we want to now go in this new direction where we have the potential for a lifetime of love and passion.
I really admire you for that, honestly. And I love the way how you speak about masculinity, femininity. I just will take it a little bit back because I'm a strong believer, just like what you said, we all have feminine and masculine side. And all of us, we have to tap into one or another at different times of the day, at different situations of circumstance and events. But my big belief is when it comes to, for example, women, if you want to be masculine and you are running your own business or you have really high profile job and need to be masculine, be the one. I mean, put trousers on and be masculine, go solve, decide, make big changes, transform, because yes, you have to be that one. But when you come back home, this is your time to literally put the skirt on and be that woman who is nurturing. And I love the way how you describe it, that actually it's not only at work or in family, it's also in your sex life. Because when it comes to your sex life, this is when people need to strip down and be naked completely in front of each other. Because only
Yes.
when you are giving 100% of trust and you open up emotionally and spiritually, only then you can connect. So I love that,
Beautiful.
John. Oh, it's just beautiful what you're talking there. Honestly, I could listen to you for days and days. Honestly, because there's so much wisdom, and I wish everybody would learn that. Because you're right. Sorry for the noise. Right. Nowadays, we have families who are dysfunctional simply because they don't realize how important is the little game between femininity and masculinity. And sometimes men can be feeling more feminine because they are hurt when they lose somebody whom they love. Of course, they're going
Oh,
to be emotional. I mean, why not?
absolutely. Let me address that because I've been extremely emotional the last 2 years, healing my broken heart.
Yeah.
And prior to that time, I prided myself in being able to, if I was upset, had negative emotions in any way, anger or sadness or hurt or fear, whatever, I would always recognize that that is high estrogen. And rather than talk about it with my wife or whatever, that would just raise my estrogen more and make her more masculine. And
Mm-hmm.
that puts her into the role of feeling like a mother. and
Yeah.
and and also it makes her, when you talk about something that's upsetting to you, women don't forget it, they remember. If I say, I shouldn't eat that food, they're going to remember the rest of the relationship. You shouldn't eat that food, okay? So that's just their nurturing side of them, so God bless them. So anyway, so I learned I don't whine, I don't complain, I don't get angry. If I feel angry, I take a time out. And that's really important for people who've been raised in dysfunctional families. They argue and they fight, and we don't know another way. The way is to understand, if you're a man, if you become angry, you have no control over that because you have a reactive brain. Most of our brain is reactive. These things just happen. But you can witness that and then do something very quickly to stop it. And what you do to stop it is don't talk. Okay, that's the most important thing, is if you talk when you're upset with your partner, it will only become more. The only way to diffuse that anger, well, the best way to diffuse it is take a time out. And what women unknowingly do, because see, if a woman, my wife is angry, if I get her to talk about it, estrogen goes up and then she feels good again.
Yeah.
Okay, so women think if you talk things out, it's always going to get better. It doesn't always get better with men.
Mm-hmm.
It gets worse because you
Mm-hmm.
start asking him questions to try to draw him out and talk about his feelings. Why would you feel that? But what did I do? And how could you say that? But they want to create this big discussion around it. She doesn't know that if a man talks about what he's angry about or hurt about, he actually goes into more estrogen and his testosterone goes down more and more. Not a good thing. Now, there is a fail safe. Now, the best thing then is don't ask him questions, take a time out. Literally, don't engage in what he's saying. And sometimes a man would be more like a woman and chase after you. No, we're going to talk about this. And you say, oh, but what you said is completely true. And I have to think about it first and we'll talk more. Give him a compliment and then run. Okay. Give him a compliment and run. And don't talk too much about the compliment because it's a little bit fake. You just have to
Yeah.
give him something. I need to think about that. I never thought about that. And then we'll talk again and run. You literally don't look at him, get out of his, and you'll never have violence in your relationships. No big fights if you do that. He just needs to calm down, cool off. He needs to go off and do something that builds his testosterone again. If she's upset, because sometimes women run after men and want to get them to talk and everything, big mistake. What she needs to do is use willpower and go talk to somebody else. Go do something that makes her happy, go do something she enjoys. But usually if she's emotionally upset, she needs to express those feelings to somebody that she's not upset with. See, that's what will make the estrogen go up. If you express your emotions to somebody you're upset with, most of the time they're not going to be able to hear you with empathy, and you'll just experience more and more defensiveness and your estrogen will go down. At the same time, your mind's saying, wait, talk about your feelings, but it just doesn't make it better.
Mm-hmm.
So what women did in the past, which is kind of what set everything in the wrong direction historically, in my opinion, is when men were underpaid, they start demanding respect. Okay, I'm the big boss. You see,
Yeah.
when men demand big respect, I'm the big boss, usually it's insecurity that causes that. That's that macho-ness. Simply because, when you're the king and you really feel secure, hey, you can listen to anything because you're the boss. You are
Yeah.
the boss. You don't have to prove the boss. You have to control anybody because you have confidence. So insecure men are like want to control other people. So having said that, what women had to deal with at that time is because the man wasn't making enough for his efforts. He wasn't getting what he needed outside the relationship. And quite often he wasn't providing her with what she needed as well, part of the bargain. So she wasn't always happy either. So it's not a good mixture there. And he would get angry, and she learned, unfortunately, this technique of calming him down. And if this is an emergency technique you can use if ever a man is scary. you just say, I think you're right. I think you're right. Whenever you say to a man, I think you're right, he will calm down. But
Yeah.
see, he's not always right. That's the problem with
Mhm.
that. And so you're training him, and it's fake, okay? But sometimes, if just to get out of the room, okay, you're right. I get it. I really need to think about this. I'm wrong. I did it again. I'm wrong, and run out of the room. Just don't engage for too long. But it will calm him down, because there are dangerous situations,
Mhm.
particularly now with COVID, because couples are
Oh yeah.
not getting the normal kind of support. So they're really looking to their partner to fill that void. And they can't. Your partner can't. That's where we have to get. We're responsible for our happiness. Our partner can make us happier.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. I love that because it's not about now confronting your partner. It's not about now let's make this thing bigger, but it is actually giving each other space and time to cool down, to rethink. But it's really weird right now because when I heard you saying woman needs to go and speak to somebody about how she feels, it almost I have this red flag in my mind because and of course because I work with people I dealt with it long ago, but still the red flag goes up because I remember since I was little I was told never take anything out of family out to the outside world, never share with anybody what happens in your family. So
Protect his
how about
ego.
me?
Protect his ego.
That's right, because whenever
Yeah.
we will take it out, that means now the king will drop his level in other people's eyes. So how
Yes.
woman can do it safely? Should she go to the therapist? Should she go to a coach? Should she go to her friend? Where would be safe place for woman to go and share her feelings without
I so
with
much appreciate that little red light went off on for you, because the not safe, first of all, if your husband says, you cannot talk about our relationship to anybody else, lie to him.
mm.
Do it, but don't tell him. That's the most important thing, is you need to do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you don't have to be, oh yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell you anyway. If you think he's going to really get upset about it, then don't tell him.
Hmm.
People take honesty to the nth degree. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to be practical. You have to speak
Yeah.
your truth, which can be heard, and you have to take care of yourself as well. And so if he's going to be really sensitive to you talking about other people, and I get, he misbehaves, the more shame he has, the less he wants anybody to know,
Yes.
which is a wonderful advancement in our culture, which is really also in the last 50 years. But it was there a long time ago, when we had in Catholic Church, for example, confession, is you would go and you would confess to the in a little box, and nobody knew about it, whatever. But even still, the culture was you cannot share about your family, and you shouldn't publicly. You have trusted friends. And those trusted friends, what Bonnie always told me is, John, I talk about our issues, but I only talk about it to women who have huge respect and appreciation for who you are.
Mm.
And that's very important,
Yeah.
because, what we're looking for when we share is validation, but not necessarily agreement that my
Mhm.
husband's a bad person, that somebody can see
Yeah.
both sides of the point of view. So you want to share with people who have more of that, there's two sides to every problem kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And because I see, and this was a big problem I heard about, which is there were all these women's groups back in the 80s, and maybe still to a certain extent. And all they did is talked about how bad men are.
I
And
love
all these women ended up being empty and alone, okay. They're
yeah,
so awful.
of
Why
course.
would I want to be with a man? We're sick and disgusted of them, and I can't stand men. And so you go and you share those feelings, and other women are going, yes, yes, yes. That doesn't have such a positive effect on you. It just reinforces
Yeah.
negativity. But you can validate somebody's negative point of view. I'm frustrated with my husband. I can't trust him. You kind of go, yeah, what else? What else? What else? And then
Mhm.
you come back, well, he does do this and he does do that, and I do love him. And then you let it go. It's called a mood change.
Yeah.
I needed to know that was a reality in my marriage with Bonnie, where it
Mhm.
was in the first few years I was learning about the importance of hugs. What men need to
Yeah.
know is a good 4 hugs a day is so essential to help keep
Mhm.
estrogen up. And so she was bothered about something I said and was kind of withdrawn and cold. And I just thought, well, I'll try it. And I went and just sort of snuck up behind her very gently and touched her, and she almost bristled. And then I slowly gave her this hug. and a nice non-sexual affectionate hug. And I might have whispered, "I love you, honey." Anyway, after about 6 seconds, maybe we hugged for 10 seconds. I don't know exactly. But
Yeah.
I noticed right in the middle of the hug that this stiffness was going away, and actually went
Uh-huh.
away, and she softened.
Yeah.
And then she said to me afterwards, she says, that hug was amazing.
Oh.
All I could think about is all the bad things you've ever done. And then suddenly, halfway through that hug, I started remembering that you're not all bad, that you do this, you do so many good things for me. And that's kind of how women process things. It's a balancing of the negativity and the positivity, because really, this is the wisdom of life, which is life is always half empty and half full. The cup is, there's always something that needs to get better and improve, and there's always problems, but then there's the good. And when women's hormones are in balance, they see more of the good. They can remember the good along while they're seeing the negative. Now, if the stress hormone gets produced, which happens when women's testosterone goes too high or their estrogen goes too low, tends to happen at the same time. At that time, cortisol gets produced. 8 times more blood flow goes to the hippocampus, where all of the memories of what has not worked come into her awareness. And she cannot temporarily, there's kind of a temporary amnesia of any memory of any good thing he's ever done. And rather than shame herself for this, or for a man to buy into that, just know this is biology. It's what we naturally do. We have a bias towards negativity if we feel stressed. If you're in a fire, you want to remember every time a fire burns you to get out of there, so your brain goes to those hot spots. And because women are so dependent on estrogen for well-being, they have more emotional experiences. Men have emotional experiences for sure, but women have way more memory of emotional upsets because estrogen makes you sensitive, makes you vulnerable, promotes taking things more personally. It's about me. It's about me, as opposed to realizing he's in his cave. It's not about you. Don't take it personally. Okay. He forgot to turn out the light. It doesn't mean he doesn't love you. He's talking to this person and not talking to you because he's thinking, I'm going to make some money with this person so that I'll build a beautiful home for you, but don't take it so personally. At the same time, recognize how to be more comfortable. Let him know that it didn't feel very good. It kind of hurt your feelings a little. It's not a big deal, but it'd be much nicer if when you're having a conversation with somebody, I'm there, include me in the conversation and maybe laugh and give them a hug. This is how we have to learn to communicate, with the feather touch instead of the hammer.
Love that. Love it. And I must say, I could not agree with you any less or more, because hugs are so important. And sometimes it can resolve any situation, anything. But if only man would just hold a woman for a little bit longer. Because sometimes they will attempt, but a woman, of course, naturally will push them away because I don't want to hug now. But I think it's all about just be a bit more persistent and still give that hug and hold on and just let her drop those barriers. Just like Bonnie did, she dropped those barriers.
Drop those barriers. Yes.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
gentle persistence is the key with women, and men don't get that at all. Because if a man withdraws, don't persist. Just give him
Yeah,
space.
yeah,
Ignore him. Leave him alone.
yeah.
And I saw with Bonnie the first time she was making loud noises in the house and dropping things. I went, oh, she's in a bad mood. I'm going to go for a drive in my car. And she saw me going to my car. She said, where are you going? I said, I thought I'd go for a drive. Right now, you're going to go for a drive? Do you see what I'm going through? So I had a conversation with her at that point. It makes a good point, but it's don't do this at home. But I said to her, honey, this is me being very logical. I said, I can see right now you're very upset. And I want you to know that when you're upset, I'd rather be somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said to her, 80% of the time, you are the perfect angel for me. I adore you. I love you. And 20% of the time, I'd like to go for a drive in my car. And she said, that is so mean of you to say. I can't believe you're so mean. John Gray, how could you say that? And I said, well, let me turn it around, because in my mind, it didn't seem mean, but I can realize it was a mistake. But I turned it around. I said, Bonnie, if you said to me, John Gray, 60% of the time, you're the most amazing guy. I'm deeply in love with you. And 40% of the time, I'd rather just hang out with my friends. I go, great, 60% of the time.
Exactly.
Or if she even said, 60% of the time, you're such an amazing husband, and 40% of the time, you're a real jerk. You know what I feel? I said, okay, permission to be a jerk 40% of the time.
What?
This is what men want, is acceptance. And that's why it helped me get in touch with these primary needs, because that message is, if she said, most of the time you're an amazing guy and sometimes you're awful, I'm like, okay, that's great. That's called acceptance. But if I say that to her, that's insulting, because women want acceptance, but more than that, they want to have a caring understanding from your point of view. And if she is upset, what she needs from me is to kind of probe into it, understand what's going on, and is there some way I can help? You see, that's what she's looking for.
Yeah.
But I figure, hey, she's in a bad mood, nothing in it for me. I'll just hang out somewhere else. And that feels to a woman like you don't love her, when the reality is, yeah, 80% of the time, I deeply love you. 20% of the time, not the best. and that's reality. We're just not perfect people all the time. And we have to be patient at times when our partners aren't their most loving self. It's that old saying, which is, patience is golden. And I remember that this is another great story that changed my life when I was first starting to travel the world to teach my ideas. This is even before I learned Men Are From Mars. I used to teach ideas on how to open your heart and heal the heart and find forgiveness. And I was on a flight through Tokyo this is almost 40 years ago, and the Tokyo airport was not what it is today. It was this old airport, and it was single pane windows. It was freezing cold. I was going through Tokyo to the Philippines to teach a class, and there was a strike in the Philippines. So the flight was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. And already had flown from America to Tokyo, was tired. We spent like 6 hours longer, 8 hours in the airport. We're on, we're off, we're on, we're off. And I remember I wanted to kill somebody. Now, I'm this guy who would never hurt anybody, really. And I just wanted to kill somebody. I thought, who is this person I've become? And over the announcement, they would say, well, the flight has been delayed again. Thank you for your patience. And when they said, thank you for your patience, I go, oh, that's the resource I need to call on. If I don't have patience, I will kill somebody. And that's what sometimes we need to be reminded of, what it means to be a human being with a heart. We need to remind ourselves. That's why, listening to talks like this, reading books like this, listening to you big-hearted person, all of this, we need to remind ourselves, resonate with that, because, I'd never been that way before, but it saved me. I remember 3 or 4 times he would say, we know it's cold and we're hoping to get this going. We're having another delay. Thank you for your patience. It was so meaningful. And now that's a very common phrase that they'll always say, thank you for your patience. It's wisdom is to be able to do that. And I remember my wife even saying to me sometimes, this is a conversation I really remember, where she said, she was going on and on about something, and I was like, wasn't a real good listener then. So this was a struggle, like, how long are we dealing with this problem? This doesn't seem to be getting any better. It's kind of like stepping in the quicksand. It just keeps getting worse and worse. And anyways, those are the feelings that come from it. And she stopped and she says, John, I know this is really difficult, and I really appreciate your patience with me. It is helping. And that just said, oh, if it's helping, I got another 15 minutes here. No problem. Just let me know I'm doing something here. Because it just felt like whatever I said, I was back before I learned you're not supposed to try to fix a woman. So I was making it into quicksand because I was making it worse. And, she was going through it, and I said, we shouldn't be upset about that. But I am. But the more you try to tell her why she should feel good, you're going to get 3 buts. No. Just like, help me understand it better. And for the men that haven't heard me talking, the magic phrase is, help me understand this better. Really? Tell me more. Oh, what else? These are like the basics, okay? And then occasionally to say, oh my gosh, so he said this and that happened. Don't try to fix it. And if you can't fake it, I mean, literally, some things she'll be upset about, and it'd be the last thing in the world you would be upset about. Yeah. You don't have to fake it. You just have to provide presence. Just be present and trust she's going to get through this, and ask questions. Just be curious. That's all. That's the most important thing. And as she goes into a more vulnerability, he can actually begin to feel her, and feel that connection. Women have that power, but just as men are not good listeners, women are typically not good sharers. They'll stay in their head and they'll talk about what happened, what didn't happen, as opposed to how it made them feel. Because if you're upset there was so much traffic, my reaction is, well, there's always traffic. That's where we live. And you're the one who wanted to move here. So boom, let's find an analysis. It's been designed to analyze problems away. All right, that's the easiest way to solve a problem, is negate it. So, so what's wrong with that? That's just practicality. But what you're needing at that time is to feel connection. So there was so much traffic on the freeway. He's going to go, well, what exit did you take? Well, you know, it's 5 o'clock. You should always do another route. He'll always want to give you some fix it. But if you say to him, oh, there was so much traffic, I was so frustrated because I wanted to get to the grocery store on time because I wanted to buy the bread, blah, blah, blah. He can go, oh, I can understand being frustrated. See, we all have frustration. So that's the place where he can connect with you. Maybe not because of the freeway, but because of the frustration you felt. And then you can say, and I was so disappointed because I got there and the bread was gone. You know, it wasn't even there. It was a wasted trip. And I wanted to come home and I wanted to make a nice thing for you. Something like that. You'll get his full attention because he can connect to emotions. We all have these emotions, but about different things. And that's the key to this. That if women can share more emotions that are not blaming him, but about your life separate from him, that's a doorway for him to come into you. And, you know, women, I have to say, one of my friends, best-selling author, okay, I won't say her name, but I told her, you know, you need to stop complaining to your husband, you know, talk about problems that are about him. You need to talk about problems at work. You have all these problems at work. You're a very successful person. There's all these challenges and everything. She says, yeah, I've handled that. I said, well, if you have a conversation with your husband, it can't be about him. You always want to talk about the relationship. Talk about your work. And she says, if I can't talk about the relationship, there's nothing to talk about. It's literally, you want to connect with your partner. So you talk about how your partner is not giving you what you need. Basically, she was addicted, and it is an addiction, to complaining, to being unhappy. Complaining to someone can actually produce high levels of dopamine and become an addiction, just like a man could be addicted to porn. A woman can get addicted to complaining and looking at the negative. This is a physical reality that's been measured. The study on that one is they looked at parents who had lost a child, okay, some accident or something, and they're grieving parents that never got through the grief. So they're grieving their whole life. They're literally depressed. They're on antidepressants. They just feel horrible. And no sex life at all, nothing but just regret. And they never get through it. And so they said, what is the brain going on? And they saw that what's happening when they showed a picture of their child or said the name of their child, what happened in their brain was the same thing that happens when you're a heroin addict and you take heroin. Cocaine, they said. You literally get addicted because danger stimulates dopamine. So when you think of something bad, it's going to produce dopamine, and that can be addictive unless you learn how to process loss by moving through the negative emotions, always bringing it back to positive emotions and positive memories. Then what you're doing is creating a route for the brain to get addicted to remembering the positive feelings rather than just going into lack and depression and despair and hopelessness and guilt and shame. All of those emotions are addictive. They're literally addictions. And, you know, how can you tell me not to complain? My husband's a complete jerk. He's ignoring me. He won't talk to me, drinks all the time. I said, well, why do you think he drinks all the time, is ignoring you? Because all you do is complain to him. There's always two sides to things. And yes, he's wrong for doing all of that. But yes, she doesn't realize how she contributes to it. And the mind will always find justification for its negativity. We always do that. It's the monkey part of us. So that's why this is so helpful. Your wisdom and my wisdom and all these wonderful new ideas that are coming forth, that can start to create a foundation for us to be successful in providing a new kind of emotional support that draws women back to their feminine, which allows women to then create a new kind of appreciation for men, which is not dependent upon how much money a man makes.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And the best thing, honestly, what I love is the fact that on your website, marsvinian.com, you actually do have a free course for on relationships for people at any age, at any status of their relationships, whatever they want to achieve. It is there and it's free. And I mean, everybody who is watching this video right now, or he's maybe, listening to the video, whichever, maybe you can't watch it right now, but you definitely need to go on that, because John, I'll be honest with you, even I didn't go on that course, and I was quite surprised because the video is really informative, which is you send out straight away as you register, and also you send out these 4 emails which are really eye-opening. I mean, you have so much wisdom. Emails are quite short, but you have so much in those emails that it's enough for you to up-level your relationships. So
You said it so beautifully, and I want you to know that those are completely written by my daughter Lauren with my help. I'm like the editor. And she knows my stuff because she saw it with her mother and father.
yeah.
She lives this stuff. So she's an improvement on it. She points out to me, Dad, you can make it better with this and this. And what we did in that class is we took the most important points and perfectly wrote them.
Yeah.
So you can really see how it's necessary for you. And we did it for single women, married women, single men, married men. And so you get 4 different courses depending upon where you are coming from. And it's so helpful as a plateau, as a beginning point to bring forth more love in your life and get what you want.
Absolutely. Yes. And also all those books which you have written, honestly, amount of times I recommended your books to my clients or even to people with whom I was speaking, and they were like, oh, I wish to learn more about relationships. I would say straight away, John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Read, reread, and reread again. Because I read that book already 3 times, and every time I found there's something new and something fresh. And that's because our brain captures something what is important at that moment of time, and then the rest of information goes just in a shade, gets faded, and then you learn something else even though you read the same book. So I honestly consider your book, I know you wrote so many others, but I think that book is definitely a Bible of any relationships, 100%. And I'm still amazed how much popularity it has, and it just shows that it is so valid even now. And I think
it's timeless information because and it's not intuitive to know how someone is different from you. You can know someone's different, but you don't know how they're different. Historically, even before that book, back in the 50s, society knew men and women are different, but they were limiting stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did is pointed out unlimited stereotypes, good qualities, but are very, very legitimate. And sometimes someone would say to me, I say, women need to talk and share their feelings. And a woman says, no, that's my husband. I don't need that. And then when I want to point, actually, he needs to become a better listener, and you need to learn how to share what's inside, even though it doesn't feel natural to you. Eating a healthy diet doesn't feel natural if you're eating junk food all the time. Mm-hmm. So you have to recognize that if you're not experiencing that passion and that love, if you want that and you want more, you have to try on some new outfits. So literally it's like trying on a new outfit to see how it fits and so forth. And sometimes it doesn't fit right away and you grow into it. And that's kind of the idea here, is to trust the millions of people that go, wow, this has really helped. And it can help. It can help.
100%. And again, we should remember it's all about taking one step at a time. Relationship can never be rebuilt or built straight away overnight. It's all about learning, growing together, just like we start with growing apart, why people grow apart. So let's reduce the amount of divorces in the world by actually growing together, by going onto your website, taking this course. The website is marsvenus.com, by buying the book, by learning more, but not only learning. I believe, John, it's also about applying. Because the amount of books we can read, amount of courses we can take is numerous. But do we actually take the information and apply it? Will be people who listen to your wisdom today actually go home, and instead of attacking their partner, running after them, trying to talk to them, will they really say today, you know what, darling, you're right. Yes, you're right. Okay, let's go out.
That's a good one. Here's 3 phrases that whenever it's true for you, don't miss an opportunity to say them, but to say to a man, you're right. Another one is, what a good idea. And another one is, oh, That makes sense. Brilliant. I'll tell you, men will never get tired of hearing that. Just like my wife will never get tired of hearing me say, help me understand that better. Really? Tell me more. Oh, what
Yeah.
else? Showing interest. And you just don't get tired of it if you're a woman, and men will not get tired of it. You can even say, I'm going to practice this, and he doesn't even mind. Okay. You can do it over and over, and he'll just begin to glow. So it's the little things that make the big difference, and the regular hugs. And part of why I want to give big talks about this is to create a context where people see the relevance. Because
Yeah.
when you just say, oh, you should hug your partner four times a day, it's kind of like, I don't really feel like that. What's the big deal? So you have to really get that a hug, not a 3-second hug, not a sexual hug, but a 6-second non-sexual hug
Mhm.
initiated by a man, not initiated by a woman, is what will create a surge of estrogen. Okay, literally, first what happens is the hormone oxytocin will get produced in about 3 to 4 seconds. And around 6 seconds, there'll be a surge of estrogen, which allows her to go, this feels good. I would like more of this. And then her memory goes more towards the good things he does. And she's able to let go of sort of that grip of sometimes holding on to mistakes or what he didn't say or what it meant or what it didn't mean. Giving him the benefit of the doubt is what happens when your hormones go in the balance.
Love that. Love that. And I must say, this is something what actually we all need to go back and to practice today. Men, go to your women or even sisters or friends, practice on them so that becomes natural. Go to them and give them a really nice hug and count till 6 or even longer.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
you can practice that. I love that. And the woman, what you can practice from today is actually putting men on a pedestal, praising them for great ideas and saying them how right they are and things like that. So acknowledging that they are talking lots of wisdom. But men, you can actually make women talk more and this way initiate more conversation, just like girlfriends do. This is what girls do. They always ask, and what did he say? What did she say? And what happened next? So in the same similar way. And that could be a really nice, healthy start to improving relationships, I think.
Yes, yes. And I think the other really practical thing from Men Are From Mars, the whole chapter on little things make a big difference.
Mm.
Men just don't get how important those little things are. Like you can give 50 roses, you'll get a little estrogen surge. Give 1 rose, same amount of estrogen gets produced. Biologically, this is true. But
Mhm.
what's also true, this is interesting, is 50 roses or 1 rose will have no effect on a woman if she already has very low estrogen. So it
Mhm.
takes a lot of 1 roses to start building up the estrogen. Don't waste your money on 50 roses. Do a lot of little roses and then to build it up. Then if you get 50 roses, you'll get a big surge.
Shh, you haven't heard that. No, man, I haven't heard that. Let's ignore that. Let's get 50
No,
roses
no, no.
every
You still
time.
need the 50 roses. You still need big things, but lots of little things allows her to enjoy the big things.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And again, it's all about being persistent because everything in life happens with persistence. Just like that water shapes that little rock and makes it very flat and without any edges. The same in relationships. It's about persistence, it's about consistency, and of course, it's about love and care and nurturing from both sides to actually willing to do it together because one partner willing that all improvement probably not going to take it too far. But John, I could listen to you for days and days and days, but I'm very mindful of your time. Thank you so very much for coming again to my show, to sharing so much wisdom today. We covered so many topics. It was so valuable. I hope you enjoyed this time as well.
Oh, I enjoyed it very much. You were a delight to spend time with. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And everybody who was listening us today, please do go to the website marsvenus.com, which actually will be transformational for your entire life, not only to your relationship right now, but you will also learn a lot more about yourself through this course, which is on that website. And also, please make sure you do get books because those books will really transform your life. And what can be better than actually raising your children in a very healthy relationships, which you improve together with your partner, so then your children can build better generations and then better generations after that, all because you educate yourself right now. So everybody who's watching us today, thank you so much for your attention. And John, thank you so very much for joining me today. It was a pleasure having you, and we'll look forward to hear more of you someday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.